you give me just 1 second, Mr. Chair? I'm starting your recording.
You bet.
All right, your recording has begun.
Okay, this is the special meeting of the Board of Ethics on November 3rd, 2021. Madam Clerk, could we have a roll call, please?
Yes, Mr. Kelly.
Here.
Mr. McKenna.
Here.
Ms. Pallison.
Here.
Mr. Goodstein.
Here.
Ms. Dwight Pearson.
Here.
You have a quorum.
All right, very good. Do we have any edits to the agenda?
Just on order, are we, it sounds like we might be doing.
By the way, Megan has joined us.
Hello, everyone. This is Megan Carmichael, Assistant Municipal Attorney.
Megan, welcome. Thank you for joining us.
Hi, Megan.
Welcome. So we're just in the midst of looking at the agenda. Jack, I'm sorry, you got cut off there, at least for me. What were you saying?
Are we going to try and take a look at the first two of the unfinished business and then at a certain time try and call Joe? I think that's what Dee said, but I wasn't sure.
Well, I'm not sure what are the first two of the unfinished business. So I'm looking for the agenda right now. I'm pulling it up.
Zapay and Thompson. So we've got the requests for Zapay and the request for Thompson. Then in the agenda we have how do you say it? Is it Gerace?
Gerace, I think.
Gerace.
Can I interject?
Yeah.
Chair, I would suggest not doing Thompson because these other two will take this full meeting and their confirmation hearings are on the 9th next week. And so where the assembly is really pushing for this information and to do Ron Thompson at a later date. And one of the things that is likely to change about him, well, I wouldn't even say that. He's not going to probably even be up for a confirmation hearing until January because he will be a director under the new reorg chart, and that's who gets confirmed. Right now, he is floating around, and he is not subject to confirmation because he's not theoretically currently a director under the current org chart. So he would be much more timely in January.
How does the board feel about that?
Yeah, so I'll move to amend the agenda to move request for advisory opinion 2021-08 to a later meeting and then otherwise approve the agenda.
Second.
All right. All those in favor of the agenda as amended, say aye.
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 Opposed, no? All right, very good. The agenda is approved then. So let's take a look then at request for advisory 2021-9. On Zapay. Once again, Lisa, thank you. You know, beautifully written and well organized work. So thanks again.
You are too kind, Mr. Chair. Couple things, you guys, one thing that I wanted to mention. I was telling Dee earlier, I had hoped to revise this opinion before we had our meeting.
Lisa, sorry to interrupt. Is this something we should be in deliberative? Are we going to talk about the substance of this again? I can never remember how this goes.
Fair.
You know, I think we didn't do it confidential. I'm sorry.
So, T, I just wanted to mention, do you guys mind if I chat a little bit about this, or does someone else want to chime in about deliberative? No? So here's what I had hoped to do, and this is what I failed to do today. We got some information from our employment attorney here about private.
Lisa, can I interject?
Yeah.
The opinion itself is not confidential, but I'm not sure that deliberative shouldn't be a side issue. And so I would rather go into our, I'm not sure if it should be the first level or the second level. I'm always confused about that. But I think it's the not recorded level because it is deliberative.
That's what you did last time, board members.
All right, do we have a motion then to go into deliberative session?
So moved.
Second.
All right. Any objections to moving into deliberative session? Hearing no objections, Madam Clerk, could we please move to deliberative session?
Yes, Mr. Chair, just give me a moment to stop your recording.
Okay.
All right, you're recording in open session.
And then should I call him, Chair?
I suppose so. Yeah. I mean, we're done our discussion for right now of 2021-9. So let's move on to our consideration of request for advisory 2021-11. And Dee, do you want to do some setup before we call, or is it okay
Sure.
just to call?
Either way, this one sort of came out of the blue. His confirmation hearing was last Tuesday, I believe, or maybe it was just this last Tuesday. But at any rate, the assembly were concerned with the fact that he had worked for the company vendor called Visit Healthcare Alaska. And it's a very, very large, significant vendor right now during COVID. A lot of the testing, if not all of it, I mean, a huge vendor. And he was in his little, and let me see if I can, well, at any rate, he worked for them prior to joining the Muni. But
Dee,
he
do
was.
you want me to share that email?
Sure. Let me see. Oh, good, perfect, because then I can still call him. I can't do two things at Teams at once. And let me do that. I'm going to quick get out so I can see it. Yeah. So he says, well, if you read this, a salary manager with that group. The problem is that is still a major vendor for Anchorage. He has been nominated or appointed by the mayor to be the head of the the Anchorage Health Department. They're the ones that administer that contract. So at the beginning, he's saying, well, geez, I don't have any interest in them. I was an employee. I was never an owner. I got my last paycheck before I came over to be appointed as a director. And so therefore, he's not seeing that he has a conflict. The assembly was very concerned with it. And the assembly, by the way, was very concerned with why we hadn't reviewed him first. And I need to let a couple of the assembly members know that, we're not the ethics police. We don't ask every single member of all the appointees to be run through the ethics board, but that's the clear path going forward. I can tell you that. So anyway, it's trying to figure out what does his former employment status affect his, he's the head of, he would be the director of the health department. Does that matter in the administration of this contract?
Dean, is there any identified downstream effect? I mean, so I guess I'm not, at least off the top of my head, I'm not seeing it, at least in terms of a conflict problem. Is there some downstream effect for him?
Well, and maybe the assembly doesn't know that all he was an employee. He wasn't a director, but what was he? But he was a manager, a salary manager. Yeah, what is the benefit to him? I don't know.
Yeah, this one feels like it's resolvable provided that he doesn't he doesn't have any ongoing financial interest. So unless he's like married to the owner, I don't know what.
Mm-hmm.
Same, I'm not.
It should have been an appearance of impropriety issue, right? Like if he's like picks them over somebody else, but that's not sufficient to create a conflict under the code.
And they're already picked.
Yeah. Well, it would be like if he picks them for a big boost instead of bringing another person or something like that. I don't know. That's
what I thought when he got appointed. I thought, oh, the appearance isn't great because he was, in a managerial position with such a large vendor. But, again, I just don't see the downstream effect. And we've got elements in the code that work the other way, right? That if you're in the city and you work on a budget issue, that you then can't take a job with the company that got, money from that budget issue. So it can work the other way where people are prohibited from taking a job with certain private industries after being in the city. But we really don't have any kind of prohibition going the other way, right? This might be just be another case where we've hired someone who has expertise because they work in industry.
Yeah, unless he has some like known promise to go back and be the director again in 6 months after he directs all the contracts their way. But, seems like that's a problem when it becomes a problem, right? Not right now.
Exactly. Yeah.
All right. Should we call him and just confirm that all this is true?
I think that's a good idea. Dee, or were you
Okay,
calling?
no, I'll call, sure.
Was that you calling or?
Oh, no, I don't know if it's him or not. I have too many screens going on now at one time.
I know the feeling, right?
So I'm calling him right now. And he's a talker.
He'll fit right in with us. It's great.
Well, now that we're online, I don't mind if the talkers talk a lot when they're not wearing masks, so.
Mhm. Okay. Joe, are you there?
I am. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. So we have the board here. Joe, how do you say your last name? Gerace?
Gerace, you got it dead on.
Okay. So this is Mr. Gerace. Most of you can see him. And he was the mayor's nominee to be the director of Anchorage Health Services, or Anchorage Health Department, excuse me. We did review, but Joe, the email that you had forwarded to me, or the board has looked at that, and I think they had some follow-up questions. So now I'll turn it back over to the chair.
Well, hi, Joe. This is Terry Kelly. Thanks for coming in today. I really appreciate you taking your time. We have Dee shared the email that she that you sent to her, and the board just has some follow-up questions. Again, we're mostly just sort of trying to tease out, is there any potential conflict of interest or something else that might be either run afoul of the code, or maybe looks like it runs afoul of the code, just to get everything cleared up, both for the city's benefit, your benefit, so we can just have everything clarified. Did anyone want to jump in with some questions? I suppose one question, Joe, that people had is, do you have any family members or anyone like that who still works at the former organization that you were with?
No, I never had any family there, and I don't have any even distant relationships with anyone.
Okay. And you don't have any agreement with Visit Healthcare? You don't have any agreement with them to return to work with them after your service with the city is done?
Negative, and they're not going to be around after. They're pulling out probably the end of November. They'll no longer be the vendor to the city also, just for full optic.
Okay.
Joe, could you explain that?
Sorry, go on, Dee.
I was just going to say, Joe, can you explain that? Why are they pulling out? What's going on there?
Well, the services are kind of waning, and number two, we're going to go through an RFP process, and so so some of it, I guess this is a secure. This is open to the public.
This one's open to the public. We could move to a more confidential session if you want.
I'll speak generically. If it is enough, then you guys decide that. The answer is they are on a contract extension that probably needs to RFP to be compliant with some purchasing problems. Secondary, some of the operations are not operations that are going to continue at city expense. So it'll be a different fee structure that we won't be involved with. We're going to use a gov-to-gov account kind of contract, and Visit is not on the state of Alaska's contract. So it leaves us two vendors. It's a known thing. It's Beacon and Capstone are the two current state vendors that you'll see in the different parking lots around Anchorage. We're attaching to that, so we have no option to use Visit because they didn't make that cut. And I can say that if you have more, it's not a decision I made. It's just it's a legal purchasing decision.
So it will go out to a new procurement process.
Affirmative. So everyone's optic on what happened. It predates me. In June, so their testing contract was awarded, and don't quote me here, June of 2020, Visit won the testing contract. They might have won it in May, and it actioned June 1st. The contract ran for a year. And all the extensions that were in the original contract were used up at $98, what I like to say a Q-tip. We, being the city, prior to my arrival in June, went out for a full RFP. I want to say 8 or 9 people were in the RFP application process. And during that process, 5 people bid it and Visit wasn't even the low 2 or 3 bidders. So with that, what happened was the people that were the award winners were unable to perform the work. On July 14th, the mayor set aside the RFP process and gave an extension to Visit Healthcare to continue testing for the good of the order, because the 2 people that won as low bid weren't even in the state of Alaska at the time. Contract required you to start 7 days after the opening of the envelope, and they weren't even in state, and they needed to delay. So the mayor just threw it out all prior to my arrival. I was at Visit. And we've been operating under basically an early pandemic pricing that probably would be a lot cheaper. There was only 2 testing labs in the state. Now there's 30. So we're pretty sure we'd see a significant reduction in cost. We're going to go out to RFP if we don't use the gov to gov, but neither one of those really looks to benefit Visit Healthcare.
Okay, so simple as a procurement process, they're beginning or recommencing a competitive procurement process, and that is it healthcare, Visit Healthcare will not qualify because they're not part of the state. They're, I don't know how you say it, and we call it piggybacking with the state contract.
That's exactly what we're doing. They call that a gov to gov, I think, in the procurement world, since there's already an active state, like we can buy police cars like that. We just tag onto the troopers. And same thing we're doing here.
So it is anticipated that Visit Healthcare will not be continuing past the end of November, or when this procurement process is complete. Correct. And that they will not be part of that procurement process.
They would not be eligible under the current plan to use a gov to gov. They're not one of the state approved contractors that we would use.
Okay.
Thank you for lawyering that up for me. That's a nice job, Dee.
Actually, I was trying to dumb it down. Okay. Well, I would think, unless people does anybody else have questions at that?
I just had one additional one, Dee, and I assume the answer to this is no, but I feel like the 3 things we've been trying to check into is kind of, present financial interest, any role in, potentially awarding an additional contract. And the 3rd I would ask about is information sharing. I assume that that no one at Visit is looking to you for any kind of additional information, or you're not sharing any information with them about kind of municipal needs that is above and beyond what you would share with them simply as the existing contractor for the municipality of Anchorage. There's no kind of personal connection there where there's additional information sought through the channel to you.
Well, I would say that they have attempted over my term to solicit information like these deadlines, and that's why I gave you the public answer, and I've given them the public answer, which is and announced at assembly meetings that we are definitely looking at attaching to a gov to gov. What the timetable, I don't even know, and I'm not avoiding you here, even in executive session, I don't know. I don't have any role in the purchasing, right? I mean, it's all through purchasing, and they basically, we tell them what we need, we help write the RFP to meet the needs of the clients, and then they run with it and tell us, by the way, this person won, and then we start working with real estate to get them a site. So they have, and I haven't provided any, and I refuse to. And I'm not going to say it's bad or good. I don't really, when I take a turn, it's like I don't regret trading in my old truck for the new one, right? Like I'm in a new truck. So same thing here. I have a new role. My new role requires me to have a military. This is classified information, good of the order kind of stuff. And I maintain the operational security as the health director. And I maintain that operational security. And I don't let anyone benefit. I know lots of docs that want in on this operation. And the answer is when we go out to RFP, you'll be able to find it on the city's website and download the requirements and bid that job, guys. Have a nice day.
Got it. Thanks for that.
Thanks, guys. Sorry, I'm long-winded.
We all are.
So I'm trying to think of any other checkpoints or decision points. But it certainly sounds as if Visit Healthcare is going to be out of the picture, then there can't be a conflict.
And even if they were not, I think without any information sharing or ongoing financial interest, I don't actually even see a reason why they couldn't continue to be in the picture, or couldn't, why Joe couldn't continue to be part of the process even.
And if I could add, like when they volunteered to shut down the Northway Mall vaccination site, and they said, here's the concerns we have about walking around a parking lot in the snow. I didn't action them. My team gets that request. I have about 3 levels between me and Visit, just to be clear. My team gets that. They bubble it up. And when it came to the final decision, go, no go, to keep Northway Mall open, Amy made that decision, because I don't even want to, it's negative. It actually results in a loss of $1,000 an hour. I don't want to be either way, like I'm punishing my old employer either. So I bubble it all up to Amy, and she makes an informed decision. Going forward, that would be the same way. Even if they did stay, like you just said, they've identified that if it gets any smaller than it is, they want out. There's not a good return on investment. So they've pulled themselves out too, just to be clear, full disclosure. They're saying we can't make it at $1,000 an hour. It doesn't cover nurses, doctors. That's fine. They're an out-of-state operation. They have more overhead than the in-state guys. Makes sense. Just full disclosure.
Well, very good. Does anyone else have any questions? Joe, those are really helpful responses. I appreciate it. And let me say, I appreciate your proactiveness using that example, right? Because that's sort of like the one thing, we might say that is sort of, in some ways, the appearance can come off as a little off, right? You have to work with such a major contractor for the city, and now being the health department. As far as we're seeing, I'm not seeing the kind of downstream effect that would create a problem as far as the code goes. But as you rightly point out, the things that you can do to kind of help with the optics of the situation are always helpful, in terms of communicating the sort of integrity within government and the like. But thank you for your time and your forthrightness and the like. I appreciate it, and I think this has been very helpful. Does anyone else have any questions for Joe while we've got him here?
Well, let me ask one more question, Joe, and that is, are there any other that you can think of, crossovers between your past life and your current life, any ownership interests you have in anything? Right now, we have just, focused on this one issue, which the Assembly had raised. But can you see any other conflicts in terms of your ownership, contracts with the city, family members who have contracts with the cities, anything else that could come up in the future?
Not that I see, but again, I would apply. So a lot of people after 35 years of being with NGOs and stuff know me. And I'm real clear that, if they know me, I think you might even get a sense in 5 minutes. They don't bother asking me because they know I'm going to be hard with the, they get Colonel Joe, which is heck no, I'm not sharing that with you, because I don't even want to give someone the appearance of getting inside information. I even refuse to just answer general questions. So I have no family members that work anywhere else. The only 2 people are myself and my wife that even live in Alaska. But if it did come up, same thing I just said about getting Amy involved, I would recuse myself. So if the Red Cross that I've been with for almost 40 years came in for a grant, which they don't provide the services that overlap the health service. But let's just say we got into something like giving blood I would recuse myself from decisions. It's not an option because we don't do blood in Alaska, but if the blood bank came for a handout, I give some money to the blood bank or Catholic Community Services as a private citizen. I donate to those 2. I would recuse myself from that too, and work through Amy. I mean, whenever it comes up, it's right away. Like any conflict, I instantly say, oh, no. I have a history of that person, maybe negative. I don't even want to work with them on the board because I don't want to taint the board work with our overlapping, 30 years ago, we got into a fight over a lawnmower kind of thing.
Okay.
You know how it is.
Okay, and Joe, so you were head of it, weren't you? Or some portion of the Red Cross disaster response?
I am. I do Red Cross disaster response. Yes, like I go out as a worker and go to all those places that are affected around the world.
And that's not up here though, or when did you do the Red Cross?
Oh, I just got back from California, but they don't have a role to do any overlap with the health department. So, I mean, it's not like we have a joint mission, if that's the way to put it.
Mm-hmm. Okay,
But
so I like that, by the way. So but your mission, your duties with the Red Cross, are you just a volunteer, or are you?
I am. So I want to be clear on that. I am. I'm a 38-year volunteer. I'm the chairman of the board. We have a board of directors. It's an advisory board. We don't actually make any financial decisions. Those are made out of Washington, D.C. We have a one Red Cross policy, but we do advise them on cultural diversity and stuff like that. Like we remind them, hey, let's not be Anchorage centric. We represent everybody in Alaska. And that's what the board does, provide that advisory kind of thing. No financial interest whatsoever. The board has no control. We're not like the board of First National.
Okay. And so, but what you do with and for Red Cross does not overlap with what of the health department, any of the duties, or you had a good word for it. Does not overlap, I guess, with the health department.
Yeah, we don't have any joint ventures. It's not like they're a grant recipient, any of that. So there's no, there's none of that. The missions differ. I mean, they're about, humanitarian aid, and we're about medicine kind of. We more overlap with, other agencies, which I don't participate in.
Okay. So a big fire comes along in a apartment building in Anchorage. Red Cross goes out there. Is there a local Red Cross? So
Sure.
You might be involved in that?
I could be, not generally.
But as a volunteer, right?
Correct. There's a team for that. They go out and get them a hotel room and put them up. And then the city services come in and say, wow, we're really sorry. Like when the apartment burned down the street here, people were jumping. They come in with all the ancillary services. Even that's not the health department, right? It's generally fire and social services, like the state's DHSS, get them Medicaid to take care of their injuries and stuff. So we have that. We might all be on the same scene somewhere, but the health department's role would be for, TB with those folks, where we're not there to shelter them. That's not a role for the Red Cross shelters them. And because they're disaster victims, not homeless. They have zero role in homelessness, for instance, even though we both shelter, they're post-emergency and we're long-standing, what we call PEH, people experiencing homelessness. That's the health department's role. The Red Cross's role is post-fire, post-earthquake, post-tornado, that kind of thing, forest fire.
Okay.
And I am just a volunteer, no vested interest. I'm just a volunteer that's been at it for forever. So I have resigned my chairman of the board role. And so, assuming around me being confirmed, I have made my resignation commensurate with, if I'm confirmed, I got to step out, just to even, again, remove the appearance of, kind of a conflict. If I leaned on a community partner, I wouldn't, but I'm not going to be the chairman of the board. I'm just going to be one of the people that serves on the Red Cross.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Did that generate any questions? I don't know if I should disclose that because it's not really a business, but.
Well, I can imagine, our opinion, a written opinion, if we could get to one, will be relatively short on the healthcare issue. And then somebody's going to say, well, what about this? What about that? So why not throw the Red Cross literally in there? Because it is a significant part of your, at least past world.
Yeah.
And,
I go out 4 times a year or so, usually for 2 to 4 weeks. I get stuck out for a pretty decent part of the year on the fire, 6 weeks in California just this summer. So I won't be doing that anymore because I can't leave this job like that. But, that historically I've been basically out of the picture, kind of just retired for the last 10 years doing that kind of stuff. It's been my full-time, personal mission. So.
Okay.
All right. Thank you. Any questions? I'm sorry, I guess I should have reported.
I would just add, it seems like the relevant section of the ethics code there is that, you can have, engage in, services, for other organizations. And the key phrase is that, provided it does not, is incompatible or in conflict with the proper discharge of the employee's municipal duties. And so that's just, keep in mind, that's just the thing to keep in mind there, that, as long as it's compatible and not in conflict with your municipal duties, you're certainly free. And obviously it's, supererogatory to, engage in that kind of volunteer service. And so just keep in mind, again, that's just, that would just be a, possible red flag, not even red flag, but just a, possible thing, as, that your work doesn't wind up interfering. Again, that's sort of ethical common sense there too, but anyone else? Oh, very good. Well, hey, Joe, thank you so much for your time. We really appreciate it. And, we'll be, we'll producing an opinion. At least I can't speak for the board, but I don't really see any problems here. Again, I think this is a classic example. Like, I remember reading about your appointment in the paper going, oh, it looks a little, oh, he's a big, working with a big contractor for, now but now that I'm looking at it, I think it's one of those cases, you look beneath the surface and there really, there really isn't anything particularly troubling here. So.
And I appreciate you guys taking the time, a timely time. I really appreciate, I know this is kind of expedited, so I want to thank you. I know it's not always easy in government to get a group together and knock out a decision representing the group in a timely manner. So thank you. I do appreciate it because it does make a difference getting, people want to work for leaders, and being unconfirmed does have the impact of, people don't want to come over here and apply for the job because they don't know who's going to be running it. 2 people came and went, that kind of thing. So thank you for at least, attempting to give some stability to my health department friends. I do appreciate your time, and thank you for hearing from me.
Well, don't thank us for our timeliness until you actually see the opinion. You never know with us. So.
I believe in you guys. Thank you.
All right, Joe.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Thanks for your time today. All right, very good. What is the desire of the board? Do people want to go to deliberative session to discuss that? Jack's nodding his head. Okay, so any objection to moving to a deliberative session? Hearing no objection, let's move on to deliberative session. Madam Clerk.
Aye.
Opposed, no? All right, very good. The motion passes then. All right, very good. And well, that is it. Do we have any comments by members? Audience participation?
Do we need to make a motion on the other draft or?
Oh yeah, good question. Jennifer, what do you think? Do we need to make a motion on the other opinion, or we'll just meet on Tuesday to talk about it?
I don't know if you need to do a motion to continue. I'm not sure. Jennifer would know more than I on that.
Yeah, I think we usually do a motion to direct someone to draft an opinion in accordance with the findings of the discussion of the board in deliberative session. I feel like we've done that in past meetings. That.
Was that a motion, Becky?
Sure, I would I'll second it.
All those in favor?
Aisha compile a draft opinion for Mr. Gerace in accordance with the discussion of the board in deliberative session for review during a to-be scheduled special meeting of the board.
Do we have a second? Discussion. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, no? Very good. Okay, that motion passes. And then, Jennifer, do we need to announce or make a motion about that special meeting, or is that just something we can do through the clerk's office?
No, Mr. Chair, you just direct me to schedule that meeting and we will do it.
All right. Well, our next regular meeting then will be November 17th at 2:30. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All right. This meeting, I don't have my gavel or anything. This meeting is adjourned. So thanks for coming in, everyone, today. I'll see some of you on Tuesday. I'll see the rest of you on the 17th. And then